Hello, my favorite listener. Welcome back to Mikey and the Garden Arch. This is a Rust Belt Studio production, and it is one of the 3 shows that we do. We also have The Engine of War, a low fantasy, gritty, steampunky, moral drama. That's on the opposite Tuesday to this show. And we have Into the Dark of the Woods. Folklore heavy, a little bit scary. It's a show based in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It runs on Fridays. Now, settle in. This show is about to start. We walked. That was the whole of it for a while, just the steady work of putting one foot in front of the other and letting the world decide what it would look like today. The forest thinned without warning. Not all at once, the trees just kind of stopped insisting. Trunks were spaced further apart, branches pulled back, and the whispers softened and stretched thin, then broke apart entirely like a bad radio signal. And then there were no trees at all. I stepped out of the shade and into the light that felt wider somehow, not brighter, but wider. Like the sky had more room to stretch. Tall grasses rolled out in front of us, bending and shifting in slow waves that reminded me of water without the sound. They were like waist high on me, brushing against each other with a dry hiss that replaced the forest murmurs. And the ground here was different too. It was firmer, less forgiving. There wasn't the moss or the loam sticking to my shoes. Pale dirt broken up by the stones and long, flat boulders that looked like they'd been left behind on purpose. Some of them jutted up at odd angles, and others lay half-buried, sun-warmed and patient. I stopped without meaning to. Meg took a few more steps and then noticed I wasn't beside her anymore, and she turned around. "This is the tall grasses." That was it. That's all I got. It's like, I don't know what it was like. I couldn't think of anything. Like, I'm a kid from Ohio. I assume it's like what wheat fields. It would be like corn if corn were shorter. We started walking again, not knowing what to say or how to say it or how to get anything across. I just started walking again. The grasses parted as we went, and without the trees, the world felt exposed. Like the sky pressed down harder and the clouds seemed to move slower, or maybe I was just noticing them more now that nothing was blocking the view. It reminded me of standing on top of a hill or something tall back home, like when the snowplow builds that pile at the corner and that becomes like king of the hill. There were no fences or railings here or no signs telling you how close you were allowed to get. The feeling, though, was kind of the same as being on top of that hill. It was made you feel smaller for a little bit, but still seen. The forest had always felt like it was watching me. Out here, it felt like nothing was. The river was still somewhere to our left, but I couldn't quite hear it anymore, not really well. Just the idea of it carried on cooler air that brushed my skin every so often like a reminder. Meg walked differently here, too. In the woods, she'd move like she belonged under the ground, low and quiet and letting the roots and shadows do half the work for her. Out here, she straightened up. Her steps lengthened. The dust clung to her more openly now, settling into the bands of her skin like it was happy to be back where it came from. "No, this place isn't empty, if that's what you were going to ask, but it also doesn't talk." I nodded, even though I wasn't really sure I understood everything yet. This was new territory. I hadn't been out here before. We passed one of the boulders then, taller than the rest, and its surface cracked and weathered like it had been waiting there for a very, very long time. I ran my hand along it as we went by, and it was warm, it was solid, it was real. That mattered, I think, more than I would have expected. I thought about how my last trip to this site had been more movement and shadow and sound and the forest hiding things and bridges crossing and rivers rushing. Out here in this wide open savanna, is that what you grass field, I don't know. Nothing was hiding. If something was coming, you'd see it. If something wanted you gone, there'd be nowhere to hide. I don't know if that made the place feel safer somehow or way worse. Probably both. The grasses bent as the breeze moved through them all at once like some invisible hand had run across their tops, and for just a second, it looked like the land itself was breathing, and I slowed down again. Meg didn't, though. I watched her walk ahead of me, her silhouette sharp against the open sky, and realized that walking with someone here felt different than walking with someone in the woods. There was nothing pressing us together, no need to keep close. If anything, the space between us felt deliberate, chosen, kind of. So I didn't want to choose that. I hurried to catch up. You ever cross this alone? Once. And? I didn't like it. Felt like that was the most honest thing she had said since I'd met her. We just kept moving, and the tall grasses parting and the boulders appearing and disappearing like landmarks that refused to be useful. Like, they weren't mile markers, but I assume if you walked it enough, they would kind of work that way. Somewhere ahead, the land dipped slightly and the color changing just enough that it could tell we weren't done transitioning yet. I looked back once, half expecting to see the trees closing ranks again and sealing us out, but they didn't. They just stood where they were, dark and patient at the edge of the grass, like they'd handed us off to something else and were content to let it finish the job. We walked on, small figures in a wide place. We walked until the light started to thin, and it wasn't quite sunset yet because there was really nothing to block the sun. The boulders caught the light unevenly, some going faintly, others already sinking into shade. When Meg slowed down, I slowed with her. We'd been doing that, matching pace without thinking about it or talking about it. It felt intentional, like if either of us rushed, something or someone would notice. This is probably the part where I should stop pretending that I'm just walking with you. Have you been pretending? I gripped my bat a little bit tighter. Of course. I need something from you. There it was. I didn't answer right away because I'd learned enough by now not to jump at the first version of a sentence and to wait for whatever is coming next, because there's always going to be a hook somewhere buried in it. I need something later from you, not today from you. I feel like that sounds worse. Well. Seems like you're learning. What kind of a something? A favor. Nope, no. You didn't even hear what it was. I've heard enough and seen enough around here. Nobody rides for free. That was what I was told. So favors have a way of coming back around and being the thing that gets you. I looked at Meg, looking at me, and she was studying me the way you look at a bug in a jar. What if I told you this had no cost now? I'd say the now part doesn't make it any better. What if I told you it wouldn't hurt? That made it worse. That made it so much worse. Just out with it. What do you want? I don't want to say it because I don't want to waste my opportunity if you won't even consider it. I'm not going to consider anything if you don't tell me the price of it. Meg started to open her mouth to protest. Hold on. Before you say anything else, no self, no memories. I don't care what kind, not mine, not anyone else's, not borrowed, not stored, not just a little. I will pay with items. I will pay with, wonder? I will pay with wonder, but I'm not paying with self. Nope. That stopped her. Meg looked at me for a long moment then. That's a fair boundary. I mean it. I'm not doing it. I can see that, and that will probably help you later down the road. So just out with it. What do you want? She exhaled long and slow, like someone giving up on a game that they'd hoped to win quietly. My name is Harry Meg, and I've been to your world of wonder before. Hold on. You mean you... Yes, your side. Some of us can cross. Not many. But why do you think some of this looks familiar from your world? Now that she'd said it, I don't think an inverted centaur really is that familiar to my world necessarily. Like, it's always horse body, person, head, and torso. But at the same time, it's not crazy. And some of the other stuff too, like some of the drawings on the rocks and stuff, they looked weirdly like they'd be familiar somehow, like you'd find them in a book about ancient Vikings or something. There had to be a way to correlate these things, I guess, or make them seem like they went together. I was 12, I wasn't putting it together, but it seemed like it should have, and so it didn't really surprise me that much, but at the same time, I was definitely surprised. How? How did you get through? Different arch, long time ago, different story. And you came back? I did. I had business on this side, and I lost my way to get back to your side, and I want to get back to your side. Why? Because since I've been here, I've settled most of my business, and now there's business on your side that needs settling. That sounded ominous. And you think I can take you? Yes, I think you can. And when you go back through, I want you to try. You want to hitch a ride with me? That's what you want me to pay? I want to be brought through properly, but yes, I want to go through the arch into your world. I don't even know what that means. Does that mean that you have to walk a loop too? Do I have to walk a loop again? Johnson never asked anything like this before. Johnson can't pass through. So, wait, that's my cost. What do I get out of it? Well, that's a fair question. I will function as your guide until you and your guide are reunited. And after that, are you just going to tag along until I find my way into an arch and then hook a ride? No. I will protect you from things like Guy or from things worse than him, from things you haven't even met yet. It was at that moment, I'm not kidding, like a scene in a movie. The grass rustled and I swore something was taking a jump at me. There was nothing, but just the way she said it made me super nervous. I thought about Johnson then and about how quickly things had gone wrong the last time and about how alone this place could make you feel if it decided to. I don't know. I plan to go back in 4 days, but what if I can't take you? Then the deal never comes due. But if we have a deal, you have to say it. Man, I thought about that for a while. I adjusted my grip on my bat again, too. Finally, I said, okay, if I find a way to take someone with me when I go back through the arch, I will take you. Then we have an accord. She bowed deeply then, and she pressed one hand to the ground, then stood up and pressed that same hand to my chest, and it felt like something passed between us. Maybe it was just me, and maybe it was just everything that she was doing made me feel that way, but it felt like something locked into place. The day wasn't over yet, though, because at that moment it seemed like the river announced itself slowly. I hadn't heard it, I knew it was there, and now I heard it. The grass quieted, the wind flattened, and the sound came in low and steady like a rush, a babble. Closer, like it had turned to see what was going on. Meg walked toward the sound, and I walked toward Meg. And then I saw her ears twitch. And I don't really know how to describe it. It was sort of like Samantha from Bewitched with her nose, only it was her ears. I followed her gaze, and something was standing at the edge of the water. I squinted, and I saw, and it was a river folk. It was just one of them, though. There were no shanties, or no cooking fires, or no ripple of village assembling itself out of the need of trade. Just one lone river folk figure standing half in the shallows, half on the bank. They weren't watching the river, though. They were clearly looking at us. We walked on carefully. The river folk didn't turn or run away. Up close, they looked tired. Just like overly rippled, like the ripples had spread out way too far. Meg stopped a few paces back, and she didn't step any closer, but I did. I walked right up to him and said, hi. The river folk kind of tilted her head like that RCA dog. Welcome back, Mikey 3 names. Glad to be here, I guess? The river folk turned his gaze downstream where the river curved out of sight and the water darkened. The village is coming, but it's slow. What about my friend? Do you know anything about Johnson? The face rippled harder, if it even could. Yes, the fox is in the village. So he's alive. So he's okay. He's alive and weakened. The river folk was reaching for what to describe, and Meg filled in the gap. He's weighing you down, isn't he? She didn't say it as much of an accusation as it sounded, I don't think. More of a realization. And the river folk nodded once slowly. The river fox is an anchor. How long do you think I'll see him? Soon. That wasn't great. It was pretty vague, but I'll work with that. Soon is good. It meant the village was coming. It meant Johnson was coming. And it meant that we were moving toward him. We were going to get back together. I was going to make sure that my friend was okay, and then we were going to solve this. Because if he was hurt, I was going to see him right. He got me home. I came back to save him, and clearly he didn't need saving completely, but he needed help, and that's what I was here for. Hello again. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mikey and the Garden Arch. It's a Rust Belt Studio production, and it was written and performed by Bryan Foster. You can find this and all of the Rust Belt Studio shows wherever you get your favorite podcasts. The listens, likes, comments, they all go a long way to moving the show along. If you'd like to do more, you can join our Patreon, and the link is in the show notes below. At the $2 tier, you'll get early and ad-free access. For $5, you'll join the Projectionist Room. There you'll get exclusive content, such as Third Thursday featurettes, and other content that we have going on. For $9, you can become an executive producer and help shape the future of the studio. Whatever you decide, thank you very much for being here, and until next time, my favorite listener.